Welcome to the deep dive. Okay, if you're running a business, maybe a busy restaurant kitchen, a hotel, even a medical facility where sanitation's absolutely critical, well, that commercial water heater, it's kind of the unsung hero working behind the scenes. And when it fails, wow, that's usually when the panic sets in. Lost revenue, major stress. The big question for you, the listener, is always, how long is this going to take? How long am I actually down for? So today we're going to unpack exactly that. We'll distill the key factors determining the timeline for installing or replacing a commercial system. Our mission is to give you that crucial knowledge quickly and clearly.
And yeah, we can give you a starting point right away, that key number. Most standard installations, you're looking at somewhere between 6 to 12 hours. But, and this is a big but, that's just an average. It's definitely not one size fits all. That timeline can stretch or shrink quite a bit depending on, well, the type of unit, its size, how complex the existing plumbing is, and critically, whether you're just swapping like for like or doing a significant upgrade.
Okay, let's break down that 6 to 12 hour window a bit more. What are the typical time ranges we should expect based on, say, the complexity of the job?
Yeah, you can sort of think about it in tiers. The simplest job, right? A standard replacement, same size unit, same type, same fuel source. That's relatively quick. We're generally talking about 6 to 8 hours for that kind of swap. Pretty straightforward.
Okay, 6 to 8 hours baseline. What happens if you need more capacity? Maybe moving to a bigger tank.
Right, so if you're upgrading, maybe bumping up the capacity to handle more demand, that adds complexity. You're looking at meeting maybe new connections, potentially different venting. That usually pushes the timeline into the 8 to 12-hour range, about, half a day to a full day's work.
And the big one, what if you're switching systems entirely? Like moving from an old tank heater to a modern tankless system, or maybe the other way around.
That's where you see the biggest time commitment. Those kinds of conversions, say tank to tankless, often run 10 to 16 hours, and for larger facilities with multiple units being installed, that can easily stretch into 1, maybe even 2 full days. It's really less about the physical size sometimes and more about the scope of the change. New plumbing runs, electrical work, gas lines, that's what eats up the time.
Okay, that's really interesting, especially the tank versus tankless point. If you look at a tankless unit, it's physically smaller. You'd think it'd be quicker. Why does it take longer upfront to install, even though everyone talks about the long-term energy savings? Seems a bit backward.
It does seem counterintuitive, right? But it really comes down to the existing infrastructure, or lack thereof. See, if you're swapping an old tank for a new tank, most of your plumbing, your venting, it's probably already in the right place, more or less. But installing a tankless system, especially in a building designed for a tank, that often requires significant new work. You might need totally new venting runs, dedicated high amperage electrical circuits, beefier gas lines with new regulators. It's a bigger upfront investment in labor and materials.
Okay. So it's the infrastructure tax, as you called it earlier. Makes sense. You pay more time up front for those potential long-term efficiency gains.
Exactly. That initial work is often tied to meeting current building codes, too, which weren't a factor when the old tank went in. Okay, so we have a handle on the ideal timelines now, but let's talk about the real world. What are the common hurdles that turn that neat 12-hour job into, a 24-hour headache?
I can immediately think of one. Just getting the old unit out and the new one in. Some of these tanks are enormous. I'm picturing trying to wrestle a 500-gallon beast down narrow basement stairs.
You absolutely nailed factor 1. Location and accessibility. It's huge. If the heater's in an easily accessible mechanical room with double doors, smooth sailing, but if it's crammed into a tiny, cluttered utility closet or perched on a rooftop with only ladder access or deep in a basement with tight corners, just maneuvering the old unit out and the new one in can add hours to the job. Seriously, it's a major logistical challenge sometimes.
Right. Physical access is key. Okay, what else? What about the systems themselves, especially in older buildings? Do new high-efficiency models clash with old infrastructure?
That's factor 2, and it's a big one. System upgrades and compatibility. You're bringing in a 2025 high-efficiency unit, maybe with different venting requirements or higher electrical demands, and you're trying to connect it to plumbing, electrical, or gas systems from, say, 1985. There can be significant mismatches.
So what kind of adjustments are we talking about?
It could be anything from upgrading the electrical wiring and circuit breakers to handle the load, to installing completely new, larger diameter gas lines or different pressure regulators, or maybe adding new venting pathways because the new unit has different exhaust requirements. Each of these adjustments takes time, potentially adding several hours, sometimes even pushing completion to the next day.
Okay, so location and system compatibility. We've covered the physical work. What about the paperwork? Permits, inspections. Are they still a major source of delay in 2025?
Oh, absolutely. That's factor 3, permits and inspections. Don't underestimate the bureaucracy. Pretty much every municipality requires permits for commercial water heater installations. Getting the permit application approved might be quick, but the real potential delay, it's scheduling the final inspection with the local building department inspector. Their schedules can be packed.
So the work could be finished, but you're stuck waiting for an inspector to show up. That sounds incredibly frustrating for a business that needs hot water now.
It is. That's why experienced commercial plumbers are usually really proactive about this. They'll often submit the permit applications well in advance, sometimes even before the old unit is removed. The goal is to have that inspection scheduled so it happens almost immediately after the installation work is complete, minimizing that idle waiting time.
Smart planning is crucial there.
Definitely. And it's so critical because for the businesses we're talking about, restaurants, hotels, gyms, medical clinics, this isn't just an inconvenience. A lack of hot water means you might have to shut down completely. It directly hits your revenue, your operations, even safety compliance.
Right. So the installation time isn't just about how fast the plumber can work. It's about strategically scheduling the entire process to cause the least amount of disruption to the business itself. You really have to think about when the work gets done.
Precisely. And that's why most reputable contractors will strongly recommend scheduling the installation during off hours. Think evenings, overnight, or over a weekend if possible.
That probably costs more in labor, though, right? Overtime rates.
Yes, typically it does. You'll likely pay a premium for that off-hours labor. But you need to weigh that extra labor cost against the potential revenue lost by shutting down during your peak business hours. Usually the off-hours premium is well worth it.
Good point.
Huh.
Okay, let's get really practical. If you, the listener, are facing this replacement soon, what can you do right now to help ensure the installation goes as quickly and smoothly as possible?
Okay, 4 key tips. First, get the sizing right. Work with your plumber to accurately assess your needs. An undersized unit won't keep up, and an oversized one wastes energy and costs more upfront. Both can cause issues down the line.
Makes sense. Don't guess the size. What's next?
Second, and it sounds basic, but it's often overlooked, clear the work area. Before the technicians arrive, make sure the space around the old water heater and the path to it is completely clear of clutter, storage, anything. Easy access saves time. Lots of time.
Simple but effective.
Yeah.
Number 3.
Plan ahead, especially considering seasonal demand. Don't wait for your ancient heater to fail catastrophically in the middle of your busiest season. If you know it's getting old, try to schedule the replacement during your slower, off-peak months. You'll likely have more scheduling flexibility and avoid an emergency situation.
Proactive replacement. Good advice. And the final tip.
This is non-negotiable. Only hire a licensed, insured commercial plumber. Not a residential guy, not a handyman. Commercial systems are more complex, codes are stricter. Trying to save money with unqualified labor is incredibly risky. You risk code violations, leaks, improper installation, even serious safety hazards like gas leaks or carbon monoxide issues. Don't do it.
Yeah, absolutely critical point. Okay, let's switch gears slightly. The age-old question, repair or replace? How do you know when it's time to stop patching up the old unit and just invest in a new one?
Yeah. That's a tough call sometimes. There are definitely warning signs that replacement is probably the smarter move. Keep an eye out for things like inconsistent water temperatures, strange noises like banging or rumbling from the tank. If you find yourself calling for repairs more and more frequently, that's a big red flag. And probably the most alarming sign, if you start seeing rusty or discolored water coming from the hot taps, that often indicates internal corrosion in the tank. And of course, age. If your commercial unit is pushing past 10, certainly 15 years old, it's likely nearing the end of its reliable service life. You're on borrowed time.
Okay, so those are signs replacement is needed. But what about repairs? Are there minor things that can be fixed relatively easily?
Oh, sure. Minor issues like a faulty thermostat, a burnt-out heating element in electric models, maybe a leaking pressure relief valve, those are often repairable parts. The real deciding factor, though, is the integrity of the tank itself. If the tank is leaking, or if an inspection shows significant internal rust and corrosion, repair is generally off the table. The risk of a major leak or burst is just too high. Replacement becomes the only safe, sensible option.
Got it. Tank integrity is key.
Right.
So let's say you've gone through the installation, that's 6, 8, maybe 12 hours of work. How long until you actually have hot water flowing again?
That really depends on the type of system you just had installed. If it's a traditional tank-style water heater, you need to wait for that large volume of water inside the tank to heat up. Depending on the tank size and the recovery rate, that usually takes somewhere between 1 to 3 hours after the power or gas is turned back on.
Okay, a bit of a wait for tanks. What about tankless?
That's one of the big advantages of tankless systems. Once the installation is complete, tested, and the system is powered up, you get hot water almost immediately on demand. No waiting for a tank to heat up.
Instant gratification there.
Yeah.
All right, you've made this significant investment in a new commercial water heater. How do you make sure it lasts as long as possible? Can you really push that lifespan towards 15, maybe even 20 years?
You absolutely can, but it requires diligence. Longevity boils down to consistent, scheduled maintenance. It's not set it and forget it. Key things include regularly flushing the sediment out of tank-style heaters. Minerals build up over time and reduce efficiency and lifespan. Keeping up with annual inspections by a qualified technician is crucial. They can spot small issues before they become big problems. And, especially for tank heaters, you need to check and replace the anode rod periodically.
The anode rod, what's that?
Think of it like a sacrificial metal rod inside the tank. It's designed to attract the corrosive elements in the water, essentially sacrificing itself to protect the steel tank lining from rusting out. Replacing a worn-out anode rod every few years is relatively inexpensive, but it can add years to the life of your expensive water heater tank. It's probably the single most important maintenance task for tank longevity.
Cheap insurance for a costly piece of equipment. Makes perfect sense. Okay, so wrapping this up, the core message seems pretty clear. If you're installing a commercial water heater in 2025, budget for roughly 6 to 12 hours of actual installation time. But remember, your own preparation, things like getting permits sorted early, clearing the work site, that's what really determines if you hit the short end of that window or end up facing frustrating delays.
That's exactly right. And maybe zooming out a bit, think of this whole process not just as a repair or replacement, but as an investment in your business's continuity and resilience. Choosing the right system for your needs, sizing it correctly, and ensuring it's installed professionally by qualified technicians. Doing that properly now can genuinely save you thousands down the road. You save on potential emergency repair costs, you minimize costly downtime, and you often benefit from improved energy efficiency.
That's a great way to frame it. It's not just about fixing a problem. It's about making a smart, long-term business decision. And perhaps the final thought we want to leave you with today is this. When you're stressed about the immediate installation time and cost, try to also consider the next 10 years. Think about the subtle, day-by-day energy savings you could gain by proactively upgrading to a more efficient system now, rather than waiting for the old one to fail.
Exactly. That long-term financial return, the ROI from energy savings, is often overlooked in the heat of the moment when you're just focused on getting the hot water back on. But it can significantly change the overall cost equation.
A critical factor to keep in mind. Well, that brings us to the end of this deep dive. Thanks for joining us.
My pleasure.
We'll catch you on the next deep dive.